Welcome to Unpopcorn, your favorite movie podcast where two dudes sit down and watch a movie that one of them's never seen before, and then we talk about it. I'm your host, Mitchell. My co host on the other side of the microphone from me is Nate. Nate, why don't you introduce
Hello.
yourself? Yeah. Um, we just got done watching our first movie. I guess we'll actually probably talk about ourselves a little bit before we get into what we watched. I watch a ton of movies. Been a film buff. Worked in a movie theater for 6.5 years. Love film, and um, one of my best friends, Nate, uh, doesn't watch movies as much, and so there's a ton of pop culture movies that like I feel like we talk about all the time. And I'd be like, "Oh, you haven't seen that?" And so we decided maybe we should sit down and talk about them, like watch them and talk about them. I thought it'd be a great idea to do it on Mike to see kind of gauge your honest opinion on things that people really like or are huge influences on movies. And so here we sit. Well, this is episode one, so I guess we got to start somewhere, isn't that right?
And we do.
Um, so Nan, I don't know. Tell people about yourself. Like, what's your favorite movie? What genre of movies do you like, and what have you seen?
I'm trying to say my favorite genre of movies is probably mostly comedy movies. That's where I've seen the most stuff. Um, I also I guess like my war movies. That's just what I grew up with. We didn't watch movies like a ton growing up. I'm more partial to TV. I like watching my garbage TV. The all the crime shows.
Yeah, you do
Um,
you do love Law and Order. I can't
well,
do it.
the Law and Order is the less prevalent now. I don't know. I've grown out of the Law and Order stuff, I guess. I mean, I still watch it occasionally, but I watch a lot of Dick Wolf television, along with all kinds of other just random stuff on TV and Netflix and whatnot.
Yeah,
Like to binge the shows, and it does not take me long.
the TNT knows drama television shows.
Yeah,
That's fair.
but yeah,
Well,
there's so many movies that I haven't seen.
y-
Uh,
yeah, that is very true.
it's just like Bad Boys, where we started today.
Yeah, so today I decided that I went on a long journey of trying to figure out where we should start. There was things like Pulp Fiction and Kill Bill, or like witty comedies like The Big Lebowski, movies that I really enjoy or that I have a ton of pop culture reference that you haven't seen. But I felt like Bad Boys was a good place to start because the buddy cop film felt fun. It's also Michael Bay's first movie. Well, his first full length feature film. He did a bunch of like music videos and stuff before that, but his first full length feature film. So I
I
felt
know
like
that.
that was a good place to start. Um, Speak of Michael Bay, so I know you've seen some other Michael Bay movies.
Yep.
Specifically,
Transformers,
yep,
most recently, Ambulance.
yep. Um, but are those the only ones? Can you think of anything else? I guess while I'm doing that, I should probably pull up Michael Bay's
Um,
filmography. Let's see if there's any other big ones that I know.
those are the two that I can think of. I don't know what else he's directed because I'm, not super versed in who's directed what.
Well,
I know
that's
the names of like the big people. I can't tell you which movies they've done, but I know the names and recognize that.
that's fair. I believe he did. So obviously he's done a ton of the Transformographer Jizers movies. Let's see what else is in here. That he was a director on. I don't want the producer credits. Sorry, I should have had this pulled up before we started, but I went and made a bunch of notes and forgot to put this in here. He did Pearl Harbor. uh, let's see what else is in here. Went too far back. Um, Yeah, obviously Bad Boys and Bad Boys 2. I don't know if you've seen The Island. That's one of those ones you probably
I
haven't
have
seen.
not.
I didn't think you had. Did you? Yeah, it's yeah. Ambulance. All the Transformers movies. Armageddon.
Uh,
I assume you've seen Armageddon. If you haven't, we'll add that to the list of movies to watch.
I actually don't think I've seen Armageddon.
Yeah,
Uh, I'm looking at a little list right here. Uh, apparently he directed Six Underground, or at least he's got credits for it. Saw that.
yeah. He might be a.
That's a newer one.
I think he might be a producer on that.
Uh,
Um,
um, I haven't seen The Rock.
The Rock is good. Is good as well. Another movie that is solid. You'll. I think now, having seen Bad Boys, you'll kind of watch the other Michael Bay movies and be like, oh, okay, I kind of get where his style is. Obviously, you mentioned it a little bit in the movie about, oh, this is very Michael Bay.
Because what I know Michael Bay for is mostly the memes of he just explosions everything,
Yeah,
all explosions all the time.
yeah.
Very loud.
That's true. I feel
Which
like
is fairly like from Transformers. I saw that Ambulance. You definitely see that.
yeah, I think Bad Boys is probably the tamest of his movies in that term. With
Yeah, it took a
just
very long time for me to get the explosions, but when they came, I was very excited.
I figured you were. So I guess
You
let's
said Michael Bay with every explosion.
yeah. So I guess let's get into it. I asked you before we watched the movie what you thought the movie was going to be about. I just told you the title, no, knowing that you hadn't seen it. And if I remember correctly, you said somewhere along the lines of it was a buddy cop esque movie. You weren't sure if they were cops or not. Um, you knew that Will Smith and Martin Lawrence were in it, so you expected like funny one liners and shenanigans, and then you referenced you knew Michael Bay was the director, so you said shit's gonna blow up. Uh, so
Yeah. Yep.
and then I read you the plot synopsis blurb, like on IMDb, which for context, it's just two hip detectives protect a witness to a murder while investigating a case of stolen heroin from the evidence storage room from their police precinct. To then, with you responded, you said your immediate thought was that it is an inside job, uh, slash crooked cop, and that you thought it was going to be someone that they trusted, in terms of like almost like very close to the group. And then you said that you felt like it was going to be like immediate that you knew who that person was, right?
Well, I thought it could go one of two ways. Either it would be immediate, like recently I have actually watched the new Beverly Hills Cop movie. And I remember during watching that, the second Kevin Bacon showed up, I'm like, well, he's bad. I was just like that he gave off very bad vibes instantly. So I thought it was either going to be like that, or it would be like at the very end, like when they're almost like solved the thing or got the thing done, that they would like all of a sudden the gun changes and points to, like directed at them and like actually you didn't catch us. One of those type of movies or scenes.
Okay, cool. I also there was a couple of things too that you had said before we started watching the movie that was very funny towards the end. Once the whole story had come together, you had mentioned that you thought there was going to be like the baddie was going to be this over the top Miami Vice Cuban drug lord type. Um, like when I said like Scarface, and you said yeah, but not Italian, and I wanted to bring that up. This shows you how much Nate doesn't watch movies. Is that he thinks Tony Montana is Italian,
Tony.
which he's not. But you've never seen Scarface, so you don't know that. So I just wanted to for viewership. I just wanted everyone to understand that this is what I'm working with. So,
Well, look, the after we finished the movie and it was paused, Netflix was doing its thing, like scrolling through like movies and stuff, and it's got three little blurbs at the bottom, and the Scarface one came up, and it was like drug lord, thriller, I forgot what the other one is, and I said, "But where's the Italian?" And then you just yelled at me, "He's not fucking Italian."
Well, it's because he's not. Well, one of these days, an episode will be the Scarface episode where we sit down and watch Scarface. Again, great movie, something you should watch. Just didn't think it was quite.
Who directed Scarface?
Who is the director of Scarface? Hold, please. I don't remember off the top of my head.
Brian De Palma.
Yeah, it is Brian De Palma. Yeah. Ooh. If I remember correctly,
I'm not gonna. That is one of that's a name that I actually haven't heard before.
Brian.
I don't know who that is.
Brian De Palma. I really should have had a little bit more pulled up here. Yeah, he directed.
He directed Snake Eyes, which is a movie I haven't seen, but there's references to that in a podcast that I enjoy very frequently. So that is a movie that I actually would like to add to the list because I don't. They talk about it a bunch, and I don't know anything about it.
We'll add it
other
to the list.
than it's a Nicolas Cage movie.
As a Brian De Palma has some good ones like Mission Impossible, The Untouchables is great, Carlitos Way. So, The Black Dahlia. We'll definitely go back and watch some Brian De Palma movies after we watch Scarface.
Oh, he made Carrie, which
Yes.
I don't know an original Carrie. I know the remake with what was that? Was it Megan Fox? I haven't seen it, or that may have been not Megan Fox.
No, it was Chloe Grace Moretz.
That's who it was. I was mixing up the.
Megan's,
What is the one?
Megan's Body.
Yes, that's what I was
or
confusing
Jennifer's
it with.
Body.
I think.
Yeah,
That's it. Yeah.
Jennifer's Body. Yeah. Same, but different, but still same. Um, but yeah, so before we started the movie, I mean, did you have any really big expectations for the movie? You know,
I didn't have any like huge. So I'd never seen the movie, but I've expected it to be along the lines of what I classify as dad style of movie, the just '90s action movie. That it turned out to be a buddy cop movie. I wasn't sure if they were cops or not for sure. Like I said, don't know. So they were cops. So then once I got the part that they were cops down, I very much had an idea of how it would play out because I have seen other cop action movies, more comedy sided ones. Which I mean, this had quite a bit of bits of comedy to it. It wasn't as comedic as something like the other guys.
that's fair. That's fair. Well, I think this is more of an action movie. That's more of a comedy movie.
Yeah, fair enough.
But we did have a couple of pretty good chuckles during the movie.
We did some of them just being stupid,
Well-
like with with the guessing of how things were gonna go.
Well, yeah. Well, so the fun part about it for me is I know the movie. I've seen Bad Boys 100 times, so I know the plot. So listening to you like kind of work through it like vocally was a lot of fun and very enjoyable. I got a good couple of laughs about how you perceived the movie going and how you perceived the plot going. So that was a lot of fun. Which we'll kind of move through. I do have I think I'm going to start our weekly bit, which we're going to call Over Under, where I'm going to ask you a question about how many of this thing were going to be in the movie. So this week's Over Under, I asked how many times you'd think you'd hear the song "Bad Boys" by Inner Circle, the cops theme, Bad boys, what you gonna? That song. How many times you thought you were gonna hear that? You said 3. Well, you said that you didn't think about it. Like you hadn't thought about it at first. That it didn't even cross your mind that it was gonna be in the movie. But then you were like, you know what? 3. I said okay. But then you decided to add 2 things of your own to Over Under. So
the 2 things I added, one of them I think might be too early. I think that wasn't as acceptable as it is nowadays. So the numbers are different. If this movie was made now, I think my one of those would have hit.
Well,
Uh,
go ahead.
with that's just where I was gonna go with that. And then the other one, I lost count. Um,
Well, I mean,
so
tell us what they were. I mean, it's your additions to the bit.
so the first one was over under how many boobs were gonna be in it.
Boobies.
I expected them to like end up in some sort of strip club or club scene looking for like a kingpin dude, and there'd just be strippers about, and there'd just be boobage. I really thought that was gonna happen. I think I guessed my total was two that I was going for, or two sets.
You did guess two sets of boobies. I the unfortunate part was that you were wrong about the two sets of boobies being
There was zero.
there wasn't any full nudity. There was
Yes.
definitely some provocative.
Some imply they did end up in a club. I was kind of right. It
You-
just wasn't that kind of club.
Yeah, no, you were, and there was a whole lot of booty around. There just wasn't quite as much
Yep.
booby. So,
And then the other thing was the over under on the amount of fucks said in the movie. And I think my guess was 14.
yeah, you said 14 total fucks in the movie. Now, the unfortunate thing for you, I went and looked it up as soon as you had locked in your answer and we started the movie. I went and I looked it up. Do you have a guess? I'm going to tell you 14's wrong. Do you have a second guess as to how many were in
14 was my baseline of like an over under, and I do think it's over, but not by a ton.
Okay, you said you think it's over by not by a ton.
Yeah.
There's 131 uses of the word
Holy
fuck in the
shit.
movie.
There ain't no way.
Well, I
Ain't
think
no
I think
way.
this lumps in things like the usage of fuck. So like motherfucker that'd be a usage too. So
I counted that too. I don't think there was that many. I would have guessed 22 at max.
according to IMDb, there's a 131.
In the first one?
Yep, in the first movie.
Wild.
Yeah. So unfortunately for you,
I would accept the 131 for total curse words. That sounds plausible.
I mean, I'll tell you what. I will get the script and I will look it up and see how many times it's in the script, and we'll kind of use that for a baseline. Or I'll try to get the script. I'll say, and we'll come back to it. But currently, you're 0 for 3 on over unders. So we're gonna keep a running stat total of how.
The only thing about the Bad Boys one is, so initially, like I said, thought never even crossed my mind that I would be in the movie. I don't know why it didn't, but it just didn't. Then you said it, and I was like, I'm gonna go with 3. But in my head, I was like, it's probably just gonna be fucking 1. Like they'll do it like at some point. I figured maybe at some point, like in the beginning, they would like all of a sudden it'd be the thing, and like they said the thing, and then it'd be like a title card or something, like the intro to the movie, basically. And then I did think, I was like, well, maybe there would be one in the second, like at the end, basically. But once we got the 1, I was like, okay, there's 1, and then it didn't happen for a very long time. I'm like, oh, it's just gonna be 1, and I was gonna be pissed because my guess was 1 or 3. And then we got the second one at the end. I was like, motherfucker.
Yeah, that was, again, like I knew exactly how many there were. So you said that, and I was like, okay, well, you're like, it's either 1 or 3, and I was like, not quite. But I guess getting into more of the meat and potatoes of it. Well, then we started the movie, and
I guess we should tell them that you are on a computer while we're watching the movie, I'm just talking.
Yeah.
I'm being that guy in the movie, just talking. And you're taking notes on what I'm saying, like, is going on in the movie and whatnot.
So our format for kind of record, like watching the movie, and then we go and record.
A little peek behind the curtain.
Yeah, I will sit there, like Nate said, and I have just my laptop out, and I'm just typing away. When Nate says something or something that I think is relevant to talk about later, I'll type it out and make a note chart for it, so that I have something to kind of read off of and reference back. And then Nate's just blabbing, and so then I can kind of I'll stop kind of toward at the end of each act of the movie and ask where Nate thinks it's gonna go, or if he has anything that he'd like to add to what we're doing. So we kind of gonna go over those a little bit and talk about his thoughts through each part of the movie. Um, so I guess with the beginning of the movie, um, we really didn't have a lot to talk about until we got to about the end of Act One. I mean, it was a lot of kind of setup and introducing the characters. So I don't in in some ways when you talked about like what you thought the movie was going to be about the big bad Henchy and or the big bad guy and how we were getting introduced to the cops and stuff. That you weren't completely wrong about that, which was interesting to see. So like I guess using prior reference for buddy cop movies, that's kind of where we're at. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The well, that did lead us into a plot point, or not a plot point, but like a thing in movies that you said is a more of a trope for this era of movie. I only tied it to two movies, because I've seen a lot of it, the cop movies and whatnot, but not, I guess, as much from this era. I've seen a lot more early 2000s stuff like that. But I might be getting a little bit of ahead of where we're at, but the bad guy, when you find him out in the beginning, he's like European. And I
Yeah,
was like, why is that guy always European? And I tied it to Die Hard, which I
yeah,
have seen.
yeah. That's kind of like a '90s action trope with like movies is like, oh, the bad guy is, for some reason, they're all European. I'm not really sure why that was the 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 like move. It's the same thing with like Lethal Weapon. Specifically Lethal Weapon
Had to do
2.
with the weapon.
Oh boy, you haven't seen Lethal Weapon?
I don't think so. No.
Oh, we're gonna have to sit down and watch Lethal Weapon too. We're gonna end up watching a lot of action movies. I can tell you. Man, I don't know why I thought you'd seen Lethal Weapon. I thought we had talked about that, but well, at least you've seen Die Hard, so you have something to go off of. But yeah, it's an interesting action trope. Maybe I don't really know why that's the case, but it is. So you'll find that with a lot of '90s action movies. It was funny though that you thought that you thought Fouché. I remember you specifically asking me. You're like, "Is that Matthew McConaughey?" And I was like, No."
Well, well, to be fair, I once seeing him later on saw clearly was not him. There's the scene where they're like infiltrating the thing, and he's got like they're in a dark tunnel, and he had his mask like on his head,
Yeah.
and you just see a quick glimpse of his face. I'm like, is that Matthew McConaughey? Because I was like, oh, that'd be another big person to be in the movie. I don't know how big. See, I don't remember when Matthew McConaughey got big. Like, so I don't know if that would have been early career, middle career. Like, I don't know where that timeline wise is from when the movie came out.
Mm-hmm.
But in my head, it would be relatively early ish.
Okay.
Um, so that's why it caught my attention pretty quickly. I was like, oh, is that Matthew McConaughey? That's kind of cool. Because like I knew uh, Will Smith and Martin Lawrence were in it, but I didn't know who else was in it.
I just
And to be fair, I didn't recognize many other people. I saw like some of the people I recognized are just like, standard henchmen in other movies type people. I was like, I've seen that guy in something, and he was doing a similar type role.
That's fair.
Um, but
I
otherwise, didn't recognize anybody big character or big actor wise. At least that I noticed.
I just thought it was funny that Jake clearly has a very French accent, and your first thought was, "Oh,
Well, he hadn't talked at that point, I don't think.
Matthew." But he talks. Yeah, he talks. But when you asked me that, he'd already spoken. They were.
Well, so when he shoots the guy in the truck, I did not know that was the same guy that I was referring to as Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah. Same guy, same.
Because, like I
But
said, there was a dark tunnel. You see his face for a second, and I'm like, that looks like Matthew McConaughey.
I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. But I did get a very good chuckle out of it that you were like, this guy's Matthew McConaughey, and I was like, not quite.
As, as it progresses, very much you can tell not Matthew McConaughey.
Right.
No Lincolns.
Yeah. So then, and obviously, if I didn't say this before, spoiler alert: if you haven't seen Bad Boys, please go watch it. It's a great movie. Uh, Honestly, even if you have seen it, stop what you're doing, go watch it, and come back, because then you can be a little more caught up. Um,
You
but
get a good refresher.
yeah, you get a good refresher and understand what we're talking about. So then obviously they steal the drugs, and take them out, and then we get more introduced to Mike and Marcus, um, and get to see a little bit more of their dynamic together, uh, and kind of go into how they're gonna get this how they're gonna get these drugs back, right? Um, and so they go and they meet a couple of people around, like a couple of their informants. Uh, One of which is
I think
Max,
his name was
who's
JoJo.
well. There's JoJo, who is a former drug dealer, and then they meet Max, who
Now he's Big Rubber.
no, he's selling rubber, sells tires, and they yeah, which was very funny. Um, and then they meet Max, who is a working girl. Air quotes. They never say prostitute, but that's kind of
They
what she
do.
is.
They do later.
Do they? I don't remember if they do.
They do later when uh, Julie is when Mike finds out Julie is at her place with the dogs.
Oh yeah,
He
yeah.
keeps referring to her
as a hooker.
as a hooker.
Yeah.
So
That's fair. Um, but yeah, so then Mike puts his prostitute friend out looking to try to get some information for him. Uh, One thing leads to another, and Max ends up getting killed, and that's kind of where we wrap up the end of Act One. Um, and so I asked you, I was like, where do you think the movie goes from here? Um, and I guess kind of give us your thoughts on that. Where did you think the movie was going to go from that point on?
so I didn't expect Max to get got off off rip. The way that they like played them up, I guess, just very briefly on the screen, I was like, oh, this will be the love interest for Mike for the movie. Um, Turns out, nope, she did. Uh, very quickly. Uh, which I guess fuels different plot points of like revenge and other stuff. But at the time, I was like, oh, this is what leads into Mike being all sad and blaming himself and all that, and just being ineffective as a cop. To where Marcus has to, like get him in line, which I kind of expected to happen with like they would just be fighting a bit, and then all of a sudden Marcus just slaps the shit out of him, and they would just like, wake up, damn it! It's like, we gotta go do this shit, and that's kind of how I thought it would go. Played out a little differently, but that's how I thought it would go up front.
I guess yeah, that's true. I do remember you talking about Mike Lowry references in other media like rap music, uh, and talking about how you didn't know because you'd never seen Bad Boys. You had like no frame of reference for what that was, so you just thought it was Kyle Lowry from the Toronto Raptors.
I did. I forgot Kyle's Lowry's first name was Kyle, and I just assumed it's like I just remembered the last name of Lowry. I just assumed that's who they were talking about because I didn't know Mike Lowry from Bad Boys existed. I had no idea what the character's name was.
Well, as I so to kind of kind of follow that up, I guess. So now having seen the movie and understanding that reference, does that
Well,
make more
it makes
sense?
more sense now because the Mike see you wouldn't think that the name would be thrown around so much the way it's thrown around in the movie because it's thrown around because Marcus is pretending to be Mike Lowry. So he keeps talking to about himself in the third person a lot and all that stuff and then just keep saying Mike Lowry. It's, which I didn't know that's where like that's how that went.
Yeah, yeah, very, very, very true. Yeah, so I guess kind of moving from the end of Act One into Act Two, uh, we kind of start to see like Julie eventually calls the police precinct trying to get a hold of Mike, and like you said, so Marcus has to be Mike Lowry, um, and kind of this kind of like path
Mike
of
Lowry.
yeah path of lying to Julie to get her to stay. Uh, and I do feel like, funnily enough, from watching the movie, and like if you take a logical stance on it, I do feel like a lot of that could have just been avoided anyway, but they kind of it kind of just kind of fell into like they bumble into it, and then they just kind of have to stick with it. Um,
Like yeah, I feel like they could have just rug pulled that very quickly. Like even when she finds, I mean, it's later in the movie than we're talking about right now, but when she finds all the pictures of Mike, and then he has to try to play it off that that's just his partner Marcus. Like they could have just been like, you know what? Okay, I'm sorry, I technically lied to you, but clearly I wasn't what you were expecting anyway because she's rejecting Marcus as being Mike.
yeah,
She's like, this is not what she talked about.
well, yeah,
She being Max.
yeah, she being Max. And yeah, that is kind of funny how they just don't ever really tell Julie. They don't tell Julie the truth until like way late in the movie.
They don't tell her the truth. She kind of
She
figures
figures
it
it.
out
Yeah,
when
she kind of figures.
Marcus's wife shows up at his house.
Yeah,
Like, which mic are you here for? The tall mic or the short
yeah,
mic?
it creates a lot of problems in the movie that it could have been avoided. But I guess for the sake of comedy, here we are. Um, yeah, and then and them trying to work around having Julie and also like being cops and solving this mystery, this problem, uh, creates for an interesting dynamic too of them having to pretend to be each other, which leads to a lot of funny moments, like when Mike gets to his apartment, when gets back to his apartment for the first time, uh, and how that interaction happens, like when he was talking about the dogs and the shit on the rug and things like that.
Yeah.
Um, you did one thing that I did want to bring up. Through Act One, there weren't any explosions, and you specifically said you're like, "Oh, I'm kind of disappointed."
Yeah. Well, 'cause, from what I know from Michael Bay, very explosive, very loud, very over the top. Uh, in your face action, just massive explosions that don't need to be there for, in some situations, at least from the memes. As we talked about it briefly before, the only Michael Bay movies I have seen are Transformers, Ambulance. I think that was it. And now
Yeah,
this. So from what I know, it's just explosions, and it took us a while to get explosions. When we did, I thought, "Oh, there's the Michael Bay. There it
yeah,
is."
yeah. Um,
A little bit of foreshadowing when they were in the ice cream van.
Yeah, well, as I say, I was about to get to the club hell part of the movie when Mike and Marcus go to the club to try to get one of the henchies because he supposedly works there. Um, which again interesting that they were like, oh yeah, this guy's parole jacket says that he works at this club, and he's just kind of up in like the penthouse hanging out. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but you're not supposed
Not
to.
only are they hanging out, they're literally just staring into the crowd and instantly notice when they walk in.
Yeah,
Everybody walks in and they're found out in minutes.
yeah. Well,
It's like, oh, they were looking.
yeah, and like the funny part of it, it's an action movie, so you're not supposed to think about those things, but it is kind of funny to like go back and look at the movie.
Think about it. Well, you think about it from a real world lens. If I'm just standing up there looking out into a massive sea of people, I ain't gonna pick nobody out like
Yeah,
that quickly from them walking in.
yeah. So then uh, the henchmen try to go down and round up Mike and Marcus, which they fail at, which is very that leads to a funny action scene in the bathroom. Um, but Julie showed up and was trying to shoot Noah, one of the henchies. And they make this escape in an ice cream van filled with ether, and that's what
Very
that's
flammable
very
ether.
very flammable ether. And they make their daring getaway, and that's when I think we get the first explosions of the movie. What we're like almost an hour and a half into the movie at this point, like an hour and 15 minutes in the movie or so. Um, yeah, and then that's our first explosions. And you're like, oh, there's the Michael Bay.
Well, to be fair, the first thought when they showed all the ether was that they were gonna. I guess they kind of do end up dead ending, but I figured they were gonna dead end somewhere and like run off of the van, and then like the bad guys were just gonna start shooting at the van, and the van was just gonna blow up. I did not see coming throwing the barrels, the 55-gallon drums, with your hands out the back of the van,
Yeah,
uh, and then shooting them to blow them up. Uh, but you know, still got my explosions.
that's true. Um, and then I guess we kind of move into uh, them getting their cover blown with Julie, with Marcus's wife showing up at Mike's apartment. Um,
That happened before or after Marcus shows up at his own house.
that happens
Uh,
after. That happens after. Marcus shows up. It's like right after. Because Marcus shows up at his own house because
you're hearing
yeah, after
Mike on the phone.
after hearing Mike on the phone, thinking that he was sleeping with his wife. He shows up at his own house, and is trying to fight Mike. And that's where they get the information on Fouché, because one of the guys that Fouché was having them watch his house.
Just got distracted by Marcus.
But yeah, got distracted by Marcus and Mike fighting, and their other cop buddies show up and get those guys. And they that's where they get the information of Fouché and where the drugs are being held. So they go and they stake out uh, where the drugs are being held to find out. They go back to Mike's to kind of regroup to go deal with that, and Teresa finds out and shows up. Teresa, Marcus's wife, finds out and shows up at Mike's apartment. um, and then when they're leaving there. That's when Julie gets kidnapped by Fouché because they were followed.
Runs away, and then real Mike chases her.
Yeah,
Uh, and then Marcus has to go chase his wife because she's all pissed.
yeah,
Then they get shot at, and then she seems cool with it. She's like, "I love you, Mike."
yeah. And then we get our slow motion action sequence of Julie. And Mike running shirtless through the city, you know, in our slow motion action sequence. That kind of
Watch.
that kind of brought us to the end of Act Two, uh, which is Julie getting kidnapped, and so I asked you the same question. I said, "Well, where did you think that the story would go from there?" Um, you candidly replied, "You're like, well, at this point, he said they're gonna save Julie." You said Fouché would take a flesh wound. Um, the you had a couple of very specific things that were that you thought were gonna come up.
I'm not gonna lie to you, nailed it.
Well, yeah. Let me get through. We'll talk about them. You said that the longer haired henchman, not the super Italian one, the other one. You said that he was gonna get got somehow. Um,
It's a lot. There's just always being loud and talking.
yeah. You said that they were gonna be holding Julie in some kind of fortress, and that you said they were gonna handcuff her. Um,
Well, I fortress. My guess was fortress or yacht. Just
yeah,
some place that they make look like super impenetrable. Like, how are they gonna do it?
yeah,
And then they just do it.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, you said they're gonna handcuff her, and let me preface this.
she hid the handcuff key earlier in her bra,
Yeah,
and I was like, well, why would they bother showing us that if they're not gonna use it?
right. So you said they're gonna handcuff her, but she has the key, so she's gonna. She said she's gonna drop the key. It's gonna take like 2 minutes of the movie for her to get the key and get unlocked.
Wrong,
Yeah,
kinda.
I mean,
She did finagle with the thing for a bit, but she didn't drop it.
yeah, you were close. Um, And then you said that that's going to happen just as Mike and Marcus get there. He said she's going to free herself, and she said you specifically said she's going to save Mike. It's like a checkmate sort of situation. Like Mike's held up, and she's gonna be like, no, it's a bang, and it's not the henchman's gun. It's Julie shooting the guy. Like that's kind of what you've referenced.
Yeah, that's what I was going for. Turns out she saves Marcus, right?
Yeah, yeah, kind of.
And then her and Marcus pull up and save Mike.
Yeah. And then you said, and then her and Mike are gonna live happily ever after until the next movie, and maybe Marcus will finally get some. That's what I quoted you. That is what those verbatim what your words were.
Well, you did forgot one part
Well, what
until the
which
next movie when Mike be going to getting all them new hoes.
You're right. I did forget that. I'm sorry. I didn't exactly quote you. I paraphrased. um, and so
He got that dog in him.
And then I asked you. I said, had things happened in the movie the way that you thought they were going to up to this point? To which you had a couple of interesting replies. You thought there was gonna be like a mole or a leak, which you weren't entirely wrong about. You're just wrong about who it was gonna be. That's all. Um, yeah, because you thought it was gonna be like Captain Howard or the Internal Affairs lady. I can't remember her name off the top of my head.
I really, I thought. See, the Captain Howard is the one that like made sense because he was so involved. But I was really leaning towards the Internal Affairs lady being the leak.
Yeah, and it kind of more turns out that it's Francine.
Just a receptionist.
Yeah. And so, yeah, but for the most part, like according to you, you were saying that the things had kind of played out how you thought they were going to, um, which I
Yeah, there's slight variations of deviations of the stuff, but for the most part, it went how I expected.
well, yeah, I didn't pick a super intense movie plot line for us to start with. I didn't think that would hold your attention quite as well. So I picked something fun. So I kind of
M. Night
anticipated.
Shyamalan twist,
Yeah, I kind of
which again haven't
anticipate
seen. I don't think I've seen a single M. Night Shyamalan movie.
Yeah,
I
none
just
of them.
know that he's known for the twists.
We'll have to go and watch some. Like I'm trying to think of what's the one that takes place in the forest. That one gets referenced a lot because it's bad. The ending is bad, but we'll we'll talk about that later. um. So yeah, so then we get into them going to save Julie, right? To which this is when you started clicking off things where you're like, I was right. Um, like when they finally show who Fouché is selling all these drugs to, it's a stereotypical guy in a, like drug kingpin in a
White
white
suit.
suit, Cuban, in a Latina. You're you're like, aha. Like I said, it's just there's the guy in the white suit, and then literally like
I was very happy to see him.
yeah, the next scene, they have Julie sitting in the front of a I think it's a an old Chevy Silverado, or not a Silverado. It's a Blazer. And he said, "Is she handcuffed to the goddamn steering wheel? It's all coming together." Yeah, very excited about the end of this, the last 15 minutes of the movie coming together,
And
all
see,
like all you'd
the way we
planned.
talked about it definitely made it more hype than it even might have been. Just because I was like, "Oh, I'm getting it, I'm nailing it. All these points are coming together."
Yeah, so Mike and Marcus roll up in into this aircraft hangar. All this is taking place in an aircraft hangar, and they bash through the side of the aircraft hangar with a trash truck, and then the shooting starts, and all kinds of stuff's going crazy. Um, Julie undoes her handcuffs and drives the Silverado into a big thing of ether, and we get a big huge explosion. Like saving Marcus from being shot. And then
The one henchman that I was like, "He's gonna get got."
yeah, he gets
He grabbed the briefcase, ran into the plane, and they shot some like ether or gas under him, and he gets got. So I was like, nailed it.
well, yeah, you forgot about Marcus's 10 out of 10 one liner where he's just, "You forgot your boarding pass," and then shoots the ether and it blows up and blows him out of the back of the plane. Very like over the
Gets just
top action.
ejectocito, cuz.
Yeah, for over the top action sequence, blows him out of the back of the plane. Yeah, I do remember you laughing hysterically. I made a note about that you were laughing hysterically at the henchman getting blown out of the plane. It's very funny.
The ragdoll that it looks like, I don't know if that was a dummy or if they get like a legit stuntman to get pulled by like a cord,
Oh,
but he gets pulled so hard.
that was 100% just a dummy that they lit on
Yeah,
fire
that's
and
what I assumed it was
put
a
on a
dummy.
zip
But
line.
I, the whiplash that he would have got from being yoinked like 30 miles an hour through some like fucking plywood.
Yeah, that was absolutely 100% a dummy. Um, yeah, so then Fouché starts to try to escape, gets in a car that was in the plane, just trying to escape, um, and shoots Mike in the process. And then Marcus and Julie pull up into the hangar in Mike's Porsche and rescue him. And then they drive out of the hangar. The hangar just blows up, just explodes, just whole thing just blown up. Yeah,
Fireworks look like they're going everywhere. Explosion.
yeah. You're just like very Michael Bay.
Yeah.
um, and so yeah, then we get to the final like showdown of the movie of them chasing Fouché down the runway, uh, and having to beat him through the gap at the end of the runway, the concrete barriers at the end of the runway. It's him or it's us. You know, metric. Um, and so Fouché crashes into the
Not
wall.
him.
Well, yeah, Fouché crashes into the wall, and gets up, starts running. Uh, and when Mike gets out on a knee and shoots Fouché as he's running away, he said, "I am nailing this shit."
He just blows out his knee. I'm like, there's the flesh wound. Like,
Yeah,
got his ass.
yeah, it's just like click click checking boxes left and right. Um, you know, and they get to the end of the movie where uh, Fouché tries to draw on them again, and Mike turns around and shoots Fouché, and you get that
And then I
red.
was like, well, I was almost right.
Fair enough.
After Fouché gets mag dumped.
Yeah, but you get that conflict resolution of now
Yeah.
we've got the revenge plot.
Yep.
Um,
Because he almost like they played it out that he's gonna do it. He's gonna kill the unarmed man just for revenge for his friend. And then Marcus talks him out of it. And then Mike has to save Marcus when Fouché pulls the gun on him, and that's where he gets to have the double whammy. He gets to save his friend and gets the revenge.
yeah. And we get the conflict resolution, and then Marcus handcuffs Julie and Mike together, and that's the end of the
And they live happily ever after.
movie. They live happily ever after, handcuffed together. and that's the end of the movie.
They're literally together. I nailed it.
Um,
And Marcus left to go get some.
yeah, I mean, yeah, you did nail it. That is how we're left. That is the quote unquote cliffhanger that we're left on. Um, but yeah, I mean, well, what did you think? What did you think of the whole film?
It was good. It was fun. It's obviously semi predictable, considering how not well I did, but I got some of the basics I feel like down from the get go. But it was still fun. I enjoyed it. The only thing I guess that I could think of off the top of my head, there's two things that I could think of off the top of my head that didn't play out at all. Or not play out at all, but I didn't expect the kingpin type guy, the guy in the white suit, to just die instantly. That motherfucker gets dropped, and I'm like, oh, that guy's gone. I kind of thought he would have. I guess he doesn't show up to the end, so I don't know why I expected him to have a big role. But I expected him to be more relevant to how shit went down.
I,
Nope, he's gone. And then I expected there to be a little bit more after it, like because I mean, everything wraps up there at the airfield, and that's it. That's the end. They don't leave the airfield. Like I expected there to be more, I guess, like future stuff, like 6 months later, and maybe like Julie and Mike actually are together, or something, or the something has changed for Marcus at home because they seemed to have an interesting relationship, him and his wife, considering they both thought they were cheating. Um, so there's obviously some issues going on at home. Um, and I was hoping that maybe they would show some resolutions to that. The only part that really gets resolved is the bad guy who kills Max dies, and that's it. And then the movie just ends. That like boop done.
that's very fair. I
Like, I
did.
didn't expect that to be a long portion, but just like a 2 to 5 minute segment of a flash forward in time and like stuff's going on.
Yeah,
Maybe somebody not got like a promotion, but like I don't know, something.
it does feel like they kind of wrap the movie up like very quickly.
Okay.
Like
Yeah,
it's
and the
just
other thing
kind
you
of
don't
like very
technically get
finite.
to see is like so the internal affairs lady who's been gunning for like the guy who's like their sergeant. I don't know what he actually is rank wise, but the guy who's in charge
Captain
of them,
Captain Howard.
captain. Yeah.
Yeah.
So been gunning for him is what it sounds like, and she technically kicks them off the case, which was semi irrelevant plot line because nothing. They keep doing what they were doing, so that didn't stop. Uh, they don't have any resolution to the fact afterwards of like oh, you did good, here's a promotion, or you're back on together. Nothing happened. You don't know anything about that.
Yeah, that's fair.
Effectively just a wasted like kind of point of the movie.
I think
Now that I'm thinking about it, reflecting.
I think it was kind of supposed to be used to like build tension, like if they don't figure this out, then they don't have jobs to go back to, kind of like deal. Uh, but it doesn't really hit that way, you know.
Well, because like I said, there's no like if they played something like afterwards of like, man, if you didn't do that, we were all fucked. Like there's no
It's
you
just
don't see
like,
that guy after that scene.
yeah, like it's
You
just
don't see
and
you don't see the
and
captain. It's that's it. It
yeah.
kind of meant nothing.
I guess that's fair. Yeah, that is true.
Think about it until now, but that literally meant nothing. It didn't stop them from how they were working. Nothing.
Yeah, it doesn't affect the outcome of the movie at all.
Or like it didn't slow them down at all.
Yeah,
They
that's
just
true. They just did
it's
it,
just like
did what they were
go
gonna
back
do
to doing
anyway.
what you were doing. Okay,
Yeah,
yep.
yeah, that's fair. That's fair. That's very
Like
true.
if it like hindered them in any way, that could still have plot ties to the movie. But like it meant nothing.
Very, very true. Um, yeah, I mean, well, I guess that kind of does it, doesn't it? We
Yep.
we
That's
we discussed the whole shebang bang.
We did the damn thing.
We did the damn thing. Episode 1 complete. You know.
Yep.
Do you want to watch Bad Boys 2 now? Is that our next logical
We either
step?
watch Bad Boys 2 or we got to watch the Italian movie Scarface.
The Italian
One or the
movies-
other.
The Italian movie Scarface. Well, we'll for sure have to circle around to Bad Boys 2. I have to look at our list and see what we've got going, and kind
I'm
of.
down to watch all of them. I don't know if
You want to just roll
the
them all
newer
in?
generation ones are worth watching. Because the different directors, those aren't Michael Bay.
No, I watched the newest one. Was it Bad Boys Ride or Die? Or no, that's 2020. What's the newest one? What was the newest one? I watched the newest one last week, and I have thoughts. I have thoughts. We can watch them for sure. I don't mind. Or no, it is Bad Boys Ride or Die. Sorry, Bad Boys for Life was the other one. Yeah.
See, Bad Boys for Life sounds like the last movie you make.
Well, I see.
So adding a new one as the Ride or Die is like, well,
So the
Bad Boys for Life kind of seemed like that would be the end.
Yeah, the timeline so Bad Boys comes out in 1995. I think Bad Boys 2 is 2003.
My guess would have been 2002.
It is 2003. It's 2003. And then Bad Boys for Life is 2020. And so I think they had intended for it to be the last one, but it did well enough that they were like, we're going to make another one. And so then they did Bad Boys Ride or Die last year? Or this year, last year? Was it earlier this year? It was earlier this year, excuse me. They would have released. So, I don't know.
It does not look like what I thought Michael Bay would look like.
What did you think Michael Bay would look like?
I kind of, for some reason, Tarantino-esque. Not like
What do you just mean?
I don't know how big Quentin Tarantino is. He seems small to me.
Quentin
Like
Tarantino-
smaller and kind of not pudgy, but like
I want to
I
say
don't know. That's kind of how I expected him to look. Michael Bay looks tall, lanky, long hair.
I think Tarantino is tall, if I remember correctly. I'm looking it up as we speak. He's 6'1". He's not.
It's much taller than I was expecting.
Yeah.
Based on just because I know what his face looks like, based on just that alone.
Well, he has a large head.
Well, see that the large headness made me think like 5'9", I don't know. But then I saw the picture of Michael Bay, and I'm like, oh, that dude is like tall, long hair. Look, to be fair, Michael Bay could also be short. Just the picture that I saw of him on Beat Day.
Oh, fair enough. But I think that's a wrap, buddy. I think we done did the thing.
We done did it. He is 6'1", by the way.
Oh, well, it's the same height. So thank you for listening. Make sure you like and subscribe. For your favorite weekly podcast. I can't believe we have to say that now.
Like, comment, subscribe,
Right,
share
yeah.
with your friends.
Share with your
Tell your friends about us.
But I guess this is Sun Popcorn signing off.